What is going on, Weekend Hangover crew? This is your boy Preacher bringing you another episode. Today's episode, we're going to talk about these top end rookie quarterbacks and how I felt they did during this preseason. First up, we're going to talk about San Francisco 49ers quarterback Trey Lance. Now, this is everyone's hype train quarterback. All these sports analysts and everything are absolutely in love with him. Now, don't get me wrong, watching him in his, pro day and all that good stuff, I was hyped about him also. I love his talent. He's a very talented quarterback. Um, but I did feel even with him coming into the draft that he was probably a 2 to 3 year starter down the line. Um, and I and I kind of want to say that I was right. I don't think y'all should just jump the gun and get rid of Garoppolo because during his preseason games, he looked very inaccurate to me. And as I kept watching, I kind of caught on why he was so inaccurate. Now, when he would drop back in his 3-7, 5-step drops, he had a tendency a lot of the time to spread his legs out a little too far, so it was well past his shoulders. So it wasn't the feet to shoulders look, and that had a tendency to throw off his accuracy a lot, in my personal opinion. One, it is very hard to throw from that type of position, and he couldn't step up into his throws. It was very hard for him to step up because his legs were so spread apart. And it also had a tendency to stop him from moving in the pocket a lot too, to whether he wanted to scramble or just move side to side, as a pocket presence. Because anytime he tried to move from that stance, he would have to like do this little hop step and put his legs closer, so it was foot, shoulder to feet style stance. And that's a precious seconds that you're just wasting, either getting sacked, and that's why I felt he got sacked a pretty decent amount. Um, So that is one of the main things that I think that he has to clean up before he even becomes, talked about as a starter, just because that is two really big hinders to me, whether it's the accuracy or him being able to move in the pocket. That's just a huge downfall to me. Another thing that I would, really have to work on with him, and this is why I think his receivers had a lot of drops during the preseason. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming everything on him as far as the drops go, because if you're a receiver and it hits your hands, you're supposed to catch it. I get it. But Trey has a rocket arm, okay? He zings it in there pretty much every time. And for a receiver, especially on timing routes when they're just turning around and the ball is directly on them, that's hard for a receiver to do. First of all, to locate a fastball like that after just turning around. Two, it being a very inaccurate ball. So that's, two marks right there. And then it coming at him full speed, an accurate pass at a full speed. That's kind of tough to hang on, to hang on to the ball, to catch the ball. So to me, those are two major things that I think Trey Lance should work on before working on anything else. But next up, we'll talk about New England Patriots quarterback Mac Jones. Now, look, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Mac Jones had the most playing time out of all these rookie quarterbacks. I think that was, something the New England Patriots were meaning to do because think they figured he was going to be the starter going forward. And they were just trying to get him to be comfortable with the offense, comfortable with the receivers and all that good stuff. Now, one of the knocks I did have on him is he was afraid to take the big hit coming right down the middle. He seemed to fold a lot when he felt the pressure coming down the middle, and it caused him to just toss the ball up, fold, and now thankfully none of them were picks, and but those were against second and third stringers. Now I would kind of wonder that first string corners and defensive guys, they're most likely going to pick some of these off. And if you're a defensive coordinator, you're probably paying attention to this a lot. You're going to send more pressure down the middle after him. But outside of that, the only other thing I could think of that was like inconsistent, should I say, was he did have a tendency to throw the ball in the dirt a little bit on, out routes and stuff like that. But it wasn't all the time, and it wasn't too concerning to me. It's just something he would just get used to doing as he continues through the season of being the starter. Um, but his pocket awareness was absolutely amazing. I think he has probably one of the best pocket awarenesses out of these quarterbacks. His foot movement in the pocket was tremendous. He could slide in the pocket, step up, all that kind of good stuff. He felt the presence coming, from a blitzer. Like I said, outside of those first two things, I thought he was absolutely tremendous, and I would like to see what he could do continue going forward. Next up, we're going to talk about the New England Jets quarterback, Zach Wilson. Now, Zach Wilson to me has been absolutely impressive. Like I personally wasn't expecting too much out of him, but he has been absolutely tremendous during these preseason. He has shown me almost every single thing that I would want to see. As far as he has tremendous pocket awareness, pocket presence, foot movement inside of the pocket, even scrambling occasionally. He seems to have a huge, love relationship with Corey Davis. He seems to be feeding him a ton, which, by the way, that is one of my, fantasy sleeper guys right there. I think Corey Davis is going to be huge this year. But besides that, like, he just seems the most comfortable outside of these quarterbacks. Like, he really seems like he has grasped this offense. He seems like he, has it down packed. Like, he, as people would say, the it factor kind of deal. Now, I would want to see what he could do going forward. Does he continue this, huge relationship with Corey Davis? Does he continue, looking like a stud out there like he has during this preseason? That's to be said. But if I had to take away something from his game that I think he should really, work on to make him better, is he did struggle a little bit on timing routes. He would just happen to throw it out of bounds or a little bit behind. You would like to see him throw a little bit as the receivers are coming out of their breaks, which he started to do during the last preseason game. He started to be, I guess, a little more comfortable with it and started throwing it a little bit more before the receivers were even open, which I thought was great. I like to see that continuing. Um, and then he happened to stare down receivers a little bit too much for my liking. But really, outside of that, there wasn't too much. But I would like to continue watching him and see if something changes throughout the rest of this year. So we'll have to see about that. Next up, we're going to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. Now, look, I understand why this kid was drafted number one overall. He looks fantastic. Um, he can make the throws. He reads inside the pocket. He reads coverages. He could do all that kind of good stuff. I mean, he slides in the pocket, senses pressure, everything. The one thing that I think that kind of takes away is sometimes when he tries to rifle it in there, um, sometimes it happens to drop a little short, a little inaccurate passes, goes into the dirt kind of deal. But I think that's easily fixable over time once he gets more comfortable, especially with the receivers and their timing and everything. That should be all fixable completely. Um, One of the things why I think Trevor may really suffer this year is not from his talent alone, but it's from the talent surrounding him. I'm not the biggest fan on one, their offensive line, and two, uh, their surrounding talent, the receivers, the running back core. I'm just not a big fan of what they have there, and I'm really not a fan of what their defense brings to the table. So I think he may struggle this year just because of the surrounding cast. Hopefully they can bring in something and help benefit him for the years to come because trust me, this kid is very talented. I would hate to see it go to waste on something so stupid. Next up, we're going to talk about the Chicago Bears quarterback and Justin Fields. Now look, Justin Fields is my favorite quarterback coming out of this year's draft. I absolutely love Fields. He is extremely talented, not just in his arm, but in his legs. He just, to me personally, I think he's going to be really, really good. Now, during the preseason, he did not look so. um, I thought I thought his throws were really nice. I thought he could still throw the ball and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes, now I figured his pocket presence was really good. Unlike Mac Jones, he stood in the pocket. He could deliver a ball really accurately and take the hit. But it just seemed like sometimes he would sense the pressure too much. Maybe it's because of his offensive line. Maybe he's got to get comfortable with them. I'm not quite sure yet. But it just seemed like a lot of the times he sensed the pressure a little too much and he started to scramble immediately to the right side. Um, Now, if that is a play design, that would just be really, really weird to me also, unless you're just trying to get him out of the pocket to either run to scramble. But if you're a defensive coordinator and you really going to start to catch on to that, you're going to send a blitzer that way and, you know, try to stop it. But his accuracy looked a little off to me during this preseason. I don't know what was behind it. Like I said, was he just uncomfortable with with the talent surrounding him or his offensive line? Not quite sure. And then even when he was running the ball, he didn't seem like he was running that fast to me. This top end speed, supposed to be the fastest quarterback in the NFL. Um, he just seemed like he was uncomfortable doing a lot of things. Like I said, it could just be because he's a rookie quarterback and he's got to get comfortable with things. But I hope he figures out whatever he needs to figure out because, like I said, he did have a fumble in the game. He just doesn't look comfortable doing things. So I hope he cleans it up big time because, like I said, I have high hopes for this kid. I think he's the best out of this draft. But if you guys want to be a part of the Weekend Hangover crew, subscribe to us. And tell me what you guys think about the video and who you think is to be the best quarterback down in the description section below.